Today we begin a journey into the world of playstyles. Many of us strategize on instinct, from pattern recognition over many victories and defeats. Others take a more inward approach, believing that superior execution can make up for any strategic deficit, but that's only correct on occasion. The reality is, each opponent presents a new puzzle for which the pieces sometimes fall into place or send the mind spinning. Despite all the hours of practice sharpening our blades and building new weapons for battle, the art of strategy has many times allowed one of fewer resources to overcome a foe with greater resources, and history is littered with David versus Goliath moments. The problem is, whether you command an army or wield a tennis racket, we have limited battles to distill the fundamental principles of strategy, and reinventing such a wheel through experience is a painful process. Plus, when you're in a firefight with bullets flying left and right, contemplating such theory is counterproductive. While tennis has some common categorizations such as grinder, baseliner, serve and volley, power player, all-court, counterpuncher, etc., each individual player has strengths and weaknesses with varying tools. Therefore, the permutations and combinations begin to explode, and despite various styles, Rafa and Roger both hit hard, Rafa and Novak are both very consistent, and Roger and Novak are both super adaptable, so that is why big hitter, grinder, or all-court player respectfully miss the mark from a first principles basis. The only answer is a framework of universal and timeless theories of strategy that apply synonymously across multiple disciplines, from warfare to sport to video games. Let's begin. Strategy cannot exist without an opponent. So the most important question becomes, what is my opponent trying to do? They are trying to capture space or territory, whether it's the court in tennis, the ring in boxing, or an objective or outpost in a first-person shooter video game. So the question is how? The only three methods are: number 1, brawl, number 2, poke, and number 3, dive. We'll define these for tennis, but the terms originally come from first-person shooter video games, as strategy is far more prominent given there's no physical component. So what is a brawler? Brawlers fight straight up, out in the open, face-to-face. A brawler looks to maximize damage at every moment by exchanging energy directly with the opponent to A, push them back and take space inch by inch, or B, wear them down so they can't fight back. In video game terms, brawlers are the machine gunners who have sustained firepower and damage over time, along with the fortitude to take hits in return. They can't kill in one bullet, but have a lot of ammunition, which forces enemies to hide. Two brawlers on the tennis court result in a groundstroke-to-groundstroke slugfest. Rafael Nadal brawls as his predominant playstyle because he expends energy on every ball to maximize damage, which either pushes you backwards or breaks your bones until you capitulate. What is a poker? Pokers fight from behind cover in a guerrilla warfare-like fashion. A poker looks to punish mistakes by inducing errors through A, drawing the opponent forward into the open, vulnerable territory, or B, giving up space to absorb the opponent's initial burst of energy before pushing back when they are compromised in order to take more space. In video game terms, pokers are the snipers who have limited firepower but targeted burst damage to pick off enemies out of position. They can't force enemies out of cover, but are slippery and tough to kill themselves. Two pokers in tennis result in a cat and mouse exchange of baiting and attacking. Novak Djokovic pokes as his predominant playstyle as he allows the opponent to push into him, compared to Nadal, who holds space trying to do damage using energy on every ball. But anything less than perfect attack against a poker, or not attacking enough, are subject to punishment. Lastly, what is a diver? Divers fight as assassins who act with haste or patiently in stealth. A diver looks to set up a scenario to finish by either A, making the first move before their opponent is prepared, or B, sets up a favorable position with too much leverage for the opponent to absorb the attack. In video game terms, divers are the shotgunners, who have limited range from afar, but close out with a burst of damage upon getting in position. They have limited options without the element of surprise, but yet are the most potent when their attacks are timed right. Two divers in tennis result in a first strike frenzy, where one shot can snowball the rest of the point. Roger Federer dives as his predominant playstyle, as he is looking to set up his favorite shots and pull the trigger. Compared to Rafa and Novak, Roger is not rallying to do damage on every shot or punish mistakes. To summarize in a tug-of-war analogy, brawlers want to pull with hard, steady pressure to take space incrementally and tire you out. Pokers pull hard, give slack, then pull hard again, hoping you slip so they can rip through all at once. Divers either pull with their full might right at the start, hoping you aren't ready, or go easy for a bit, and when you think they aren't strong, pull with max power in one tug. Despite different objectives, all three playstyles achieve a final result of finishing the opponent off, which may appear like dive at the very end, but dive by comparison is more comfortable pulling the trigger earlier. So always go back to the question of, what is my opponent trying to do to me? Or for what reason is this player rallying? 1, to wear me down physically and take space inch by inch. 2, to punish mistakes and bait with giving and taking space. Or 3, to set up a finish and take space all at once. We will soon answer, what should I be trying to do? Which depends on your preferred playstyle, so that is why any given advice could be excellent for one player and terrible for another. This equation must be solved systematically, but whether it's Muhammad Ali poking with the jab, Mike Tyson diving with his bob and weave, or the cavalry archer pikeman dynamic from the medieval age, all the concepts are the same, and that's the beautiful thing. This is the foundational concept on which we'll stack. So like algebra or calculus, missing this first lesson will render all the others useless.